Welcome to War Thunder Spectrum Episode 2. Today I gathered players from my Discord server to ask some controversial questions about War Thunder to get their opinions. For this episode, the players are all veterans who have been playing since 2016 with thousands of hours in the game. Today, we're going to see if all War Thunder veterans think the same. Let's introduce our contestants.
I've been playing ever since, well, it wasn't exactly ground beta, but the only two tech trees for tanks that when I started playing, were Germany and Russia. So I've been playing for
Yeah,
quite a while.
fun days.
Fortunate, but I mostly played tanks, so I can't exactly say anything about planes.
Hey, what's up? I've been playing since 2013. I don't remember when exactly, but yeah, as far as I remember, it was just Russia and Germany ground, so that was sort of a pin in the time. I've got a little over 2,300 hours at the moment, and I, in the past, have spent a stupid amount of money on the game. I still spend a stupid amount of money, but I don't have as much these days. And I really enjoy it. I kind of like all the different BRs. Occasionally, I'll go back to like Tiger tier or go play some Shermans, but I've been playing a lot of top tier recently. I honestly really like it. So that's kind of where I'm at.
I've been playing since 2016. I got thousands of hours and spent too much money on this game. I really enjoy naval and top tier air.
Hello, my name is Philip. I've been playing since late 2015. Really started getting into the game in update 1.55 with the British tanks getting added. And from there, I've just sort of steadily been increasing my hours up until about 2018, where I really stepped my game up. I didn't really play much, but up from about late 2018, I've been grinding about non-stop. So, well, needless to say, I've got about 7,500 hours.
Oh, hey, Seaweed. I played since 2016. I have around 1,900 hours on this game, and yeah, I mainly play air, but I do dabble in ground. I have top tier ground in Germany and Russia, and yeah.
War Thunder was better back in the day. 3, 2, 1, go.
Right, I don't really know why people say that it was better, because it clearly wasn't. I mean, I still remember the Leo 1 hit FPS costing 1,000 silver lions per shot. You could easily get broke. And not to mention that parts and FPE, they weren't separated. You had to finish a tier 1 modification to get a tier 2. And parts and FPE was in a tier 2. Was that fun?
I mean, back in the day can mean a bunch of different things. I tend to think of 9.0 top tier as being, the nostalgia era, but just generally, I guess the attitude is, oh, well, back in the day you didn't have X, Y, and Z. But, well, we didn't have a lot of nice things. Like he was mentioning, they made that change where you only have to get one rank 1 modification in order to start researching FPE, so you can go straight from parts to FPE. A bunch of different stuff, economy balancing. They have actually made stuff cheaper overall. I mean, they've made more stuff to research, but they've made things cheaper as they go, as they increase the BR ceilings. So the grind has stayed pretty similar, and you've had a ton of quality of life stuff. And I think people forget just how much complaining there was about balancing back in the day, especially at top tier. People saying the Sabres were OP, the CL-13 was the best plane in the game. You always had complaints, and I think right now the game's in a better state than it's ever been in, arguably.
Along with what Seth and Android have said, also there's a lot more variety to the game with a lot more vehicles that have been added. Of course, like I get that some vehicles which are controversial, like the Object 120 being so low BR and the RTT 20 being really annoying for a long time. That was not very good, but like just the quality of live updates and like the graphical improvements make the game so much more beautiful and enjoyable. And that's why I think it's better now than back in the day.
I don't think Android could have said that any better than, well, anyone else on this planet. But one thing to add is that, personally, I do enjoy top tier more. And back in the day, you had top tier tanks being shit like the Tiger 2 105, T-54, and whatnot. Just kind of was a little bit too old school for me. When stuff like the newer stuff, like the one I'm in, came out, that was when stuff kind of changed. Just feel like it's better now.
I picked neutral because overall I think back in the old days there was a lot of fun things and it was pretty fun doing in heavy tanks because mostly the meta back then was like heavy tank versus heavy tank. But as the game changes, honestly, I think it's constantly improving. So I can't even say like the new War Thunder is like that bad at all either. And yeah, I think both old and new War Thunder are great.
The money I've spent in the game was worth it. 3, 2, 1, go.
I would say yes, because well, if I like the game, I'll support it by buying in-game currency and all that.
Yeah, I mean, overall, I'd say that you get your money's worth out of the game. There's people that argue that, oh, well, everything's really expensive and you should be able to play it for free. I mean, really what you're getting is a really awesome demo when you don't spend any money. And when you spend money, you're effectively just buying the game. And do I think that you can get a full game's experience for $60? I absolutely do think you can. And there's only some gripes, which is why I'm not all the way forward, such as the converting RP being horrendously inefficient, which kind of makes sense, but it's still really annoying. And some of the insane grinds to try and get crafting vehicles, but that basically necessitate that you have to spend money sometimes if you can't spend tons of time on it. But yeah, overall, I'd say your money's definitely worth it when it's going into here, as long as you like the game.
Yes, definitely. Premium time is incredibly good for you. It ups your rewards a ton, making the grind way easier for you and also shorter, of course. And in terms of buying vehicles, there's a lot of unique vehicles and good vehicles that you can buy with Golden Eagles. But converting RP and buying a cell with Golden Eagles is really not worth it.
At this point, I think I've put about 250 euros into the game. I don't regret a single time of that. It's just worth it through and through. Premium account, as Neil said, is definitely worth your money. Golden Eagle tanks, not so much, but if they're fun and somewhat interesting, then sure, go for it. But most of the time, I just grind events and get Gaijin coins these days, and then invest it in event vehicles.
Yeah, I think the money I spent in this game is worth it. I always spend around like $40 a year for the 1 year premium on the 50% sales, which is overall really worth it. And you get a lot out of it. I grinded like lots of my air trees just using premium time. And if you want like premium vehicles, you can grind events and get Gaijin coin and get all the premium vehicles that you want, which is how I got mine. So honestly, I don't really regret spending my money as I got most of this stuff for free.
Gaijin focuses too much on tank/ground RP. 3, 2, 1, go.
I somewhat disagree to that because, well, Ground RB is basically a mixed battle, and War Thunder is known for combined warfare. So they're basically getting everything in there except ships, but who knows what comes next. However, yeah, the RRB and naval probably could use different modes.
I mean, yeah, you kind of mentioned it there that combined arms ground RB is like the staple of War Thunder. It's what a lot of people come to the game for. Probably second to air RB, apart from newer players where you want to start out with arcade, obviously, and that's a great mode, but that's a whole other discussion. It makes sense that they put a lot of effort into ground RB because that's the meeting point as well of their two most played units out of the three planes and tanks. I was about to say ships and tanks. That's interesting. It's the meeting point where planes and tanks fight, and those are their two most played types of units. So yeah, and it has the most interesting sort of gameplay dynamic where you've got the two sort of types of units intersecting. It's unique to the game. It presents a lot of gameplay challenges, so it makes sense that they'd put a lot of development effort towards it. And they still put plenty of effort towards the other modes, honestly.
They, in my opinion, add plenty of aircraft each update, and as well as in the events, there's always one aircraft. As for ships, I think it gets its fair share because almost every event there's at least one ship that gets added, even though it's a really unpopular game mode. And I really like that they still care about it. The only thing is that Naval EC, which is a really fun game mode in my opinion, it only gets added like once or not once, like 2 or 3 times a year, and it's always during events. So like you have to choose between playing the event and playing Naval EC, which is really annoying.
Overall, War Thunder being a game that prides itself on realism, it's only natural that you'll see ground RB take precedence over other game modes. In real life, combined arms strategy is the way forwards. Without air power, your ground units will suffer. Without ground units, your air units will be basically unable to do anything. Alongside with that, I do see a whole lot of new vehicles coming to both ground and air. It's simply just the two main game modes that there are.
I disagree with this because I think Gaijin is more focusing on air now. As in the past year, we've had like multiple updates dedicated to air, such as Red Skies, Direct Hit, Winged Lions, and Wind and Change, and only one like ground update, which is groundbreaking. So I think they are shifting towards more air-related updates and in the future, and especially with the incoming Generation 4 aircraft. I think yeah, they will be like really focused on air in the coming years.
Events have become more tedious over the years. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so yeah, they definitely got. You can the best example I can think of is the operations event. We're supposed to do tasks for over 2 days. They keep raising the requirements for ground vehicles. Like for example, when the first operation came out, you were supposed to get 30 kills with a multiplier. Now, last time you're supposed to get 50 kills without a multiplier, so it didn't matter if you did them in arcade or realistic. However, for some reason, they keep lowering the requirements for the air and naval. So I suppose they did some balance them out somewhat. As for the crafting events, honestly, I kind of prefer them because you can, like the somebody before said it, you can actually just exchange those materials and get Gaijin coins, and you don't have to bother with the crafting event at all.
Frankly, I can't say a whole lot about the crafting events because I sort of purposefully avoided them for years. I only really got involved for the what was it, the Cyber Thunder April Fool's crafting event and the past Operation Winter one that we just had a few months ago. And honestly, I'm always surprised. I'm surprised with the past April Fool's event and with this one with how many hours you have to put in order to get decent vehicles. But as far as like Operation Winter, at least the one time that I did it, it seems like it's a lot easier and a lot quicker if you have top tier vehicles to get the goals. Because I was able to grind out the 2 day goals for Winter in like an hour. But I can see how if you have like rank threes and rank fours, it can be a much longer grind potentially. So it might be a little bit too long, but I really can't say honestly.
Yeah, like Seth said, the requirements that you need to get for like the battle stars or whatever they're called has gone up a lot, which makes the grinding it takes just a really long time. That is, it's getting ridiculous at some to some degree. Like it's not too amazingly bad yet, but it's pretty bad compared to back in the day. And especially the crafting event, it's like you have to put in so many hours, but it's still impossible for you to get all of the vehicles. You can get at most, I think, like half of them, and it's just ridiculous. I just don't do them anymore. I used to do them, but it's gotten so bad I just don't do them anymore.
I mean, if anyone looks back on the events in the past of War Thunder, you can look at, for example, the first crafting event ever. You had the I7 as the top reward. That event was notoriously hard. Everyone that I've asked, everything that I've seen, and in fact the stuff that I experienced myself trying to grind for that, it was basically in vain. It was some of the hardest stuff that there's ever been in the terms of events. Over the years, it's only gotten easier. The past grinding events have been easy as pie compared to that. The task events, however, it may seem that the rewards are getting harder and harder to obtain. It's simply balancing because you are, for example, not getting that multiplier that said mentioned for tanks in Grand RB or Sim. That's simply because you are more likely to get more kills in said battles than, let's say, in air battles or ship battles.
I agree with Philip. Back when I was playing a little bit when the IS-7 event, crafting event came out, and it was really impossible to get as you needed the T-34E first, which was the first reward, and then after that you needed to grind again for the IS-7, which is like very hard. And then over the years, I think it's become easier, and this event being one of the easiest ones, as before you'd have like a random RNG chance of materials being dropped, and then if you were lacking on one, you would need to buy it on the marketplace to actually finish the event, because sometimes you get unlucky. I grinded the Merkava Mark III, and it was really painful. But with this new event, with the credit system, where it's universal materials, I think it's a lot better compared to what happened in the past. But for operation of events, I do disagree that events are indeed more tedious, as yeah, you don't get the multipliers, and overall you just need more kills than before.
Top tier is fun. 3, 2, 1, go.
Okay, so ground battles, yeah, they are really fun. They are fast-paced, long range, just about everything you really need. However, I can't say much for air battles because I definitely have a skill issue over there, so not either good nor enjoying them. That being said, they could definitely limit the quote-unquote cast problem in ground battles. That's not fun when you're on the receiving end.
Overall, I'd say the experience at top tier, if you're familiar with the actual mechanics of it, which the game doesn't do a good job of teaching you, I'd say the experience is pretty good. There's definitely some gripes. Things like there isn't really a whole lot of counterplay between anti-air and CAS. It's very polarized, where it's like if you have a good anti-air player actually up on the opposing team in ground combined RB, they can just completely clear the skies. And if you don't have that player, the skies can just kill every single tank on the map. Problems like that, problems like helicopters sort of trying to find their place. But overall, I think it's pretty good. It's great for events. As I said before, you can grind things really fast with jets because you just get into the fight faster. You get in and out. You get your RP faster. You get your credits faster. You get your rewards faster. And for people who like the more modern stuff, it's a fantastic game, and there's nothing like it.
I think top tier in general is great. I absolutely love planes with their faster pace and the missiles. Tanks, it's kind of mixed because I have some experience about just camping and then just everyone camping, and that's really annoying. And of course, yeah, naval is cool. In my opinion, I'm not gonna talk about it too much since not many people are interested in naval.
In the terms of top tier gameplay, you've got to start using your action speeds more. You're more dependent on actually being able to get around, use your brain, think about the possible routes of attack. You got to think of it more strategically than you normally would at low tier. You don't have the same reaction space to work with. You need to actually work quickly and decisively. If you don't do so, you will die, and you will die miserably. If you do not, for example, when you get killed by CAS, pull out your anti-air quickly enough, that CAS aircraft will be 12 kilometers away and well outside of your effective combat range, and will just come back from some unexpected angle and fuck you the hell up. You gotta think about your actions, you gotta think about how to counter the enemy and bring your team to victory.
I think top tier air is really fun. I personally enjoy it, as I like dodging missiles and shooting other people down. But top tier ground, I'm mixed about it, because it is really about reaction speed, and whoever gets the first shot off usually wins. I do prefer sticking to mid tier ground, but when I do get bored, top tier ground is also very fun to go hang out in and play for a couple rounds as well.
Gaijin is biased towards certain nations. 3, 2, 1, go.
All right, I can see why people would say that, mostly because, well, there are certain nations that keep getting new stuff every update. But at the same time, I don't agree with that statement. There really isn't any nation that is overpowered. One or two of them might be overperforming, but by the time next patch comes in, they're not going to be overperforming anymore.
I mean, this argument's been around for ages, and if you've been around long enough, you've kind of probably noticed a pattern. The quote unquote biased nation will sort of shift around over time. I remember when Japan was considered the best ground nation because of the Type 90, you had the point where the US was the best air nation because of the F4C versus the early model MiG 21s. You had the MiG 23 coming in, it was the best fighter in the game. Stuff just sort of shifts around. And I mean, you've still got people arguing on both sides of the tanks as far as durability and guns and stuff like that. So honestly, I think they've done a great job sort of sifting through information, trying to find credible sources, and balancing as best as they can with the hundreds of vehicles that they have to manage.
They're a little bit biased, in my opinion, against the big three nations, so like USA, USSR, and Germany, because, well, it's partially because they just have more vehicles to add, because like every update they get more vehicles and they get a lot more vehicles at them for events, and it also makes them more money since more players play those nations, of course. But it's not really that bad.
Overall, I don't think there's anything cold bias towards certain nations. Yes, one patch, you may see new vehicles getting added. Very good example being this patch. Both Israeli tanks and British tanks got a massive new jump ahead with active protection systems. Arguably, right now, the Challenger 2 Black Knight is one of the best protected and most viable tanks in the game, but it shifts with the patches. Every nation gets their time to shine. And when it comes to nations getting more vehicles than other nations, mainly the big three, that's simply because they made more vehicles. It doesn't make sense to give all the smaller nations all their vehicles at once, then they won't get anything for the rest of the time that this game will stay around.
I said slightly agree because balancing reasons, I don't find any problem of like any bias, but only the vehicle content I do find a little bit of an issue because as playing through the minors, there are like lots of BR gaps that they could fill, but they have been neglecting. But overall, I think there's like, I mean, they only want to give the vehicles to the top three because it makes them a lot of money. So I understand why, and yeah, which is why I only slightly agree because yeah, I feel like they really focus on big three for financial reasons.
And now, time for a bonus question. What is your most unpopular opinion about War Thunder?
Naval can be profitable if you, quote unquote, if you have a premium ship. America is getting too many jets per update, and helicopters are balanced.
The closest thing I can think of is probably that sort of the amount of money that you have to spend on this game to get a reasonable amount of grind. So say like regularly keeping up your premium time, maybe getting a premium vehicle here and there to get a good amount of RP and stuff like that is justified if you look back to, and this is a bit of a reach, you look back to the early 2000s to the MMORPGs that people used to play religiously. They had monthly subscriptions. That was like the free-to-play days. I just tend to think of the Golden Eagles as just a monthly subscription of here, pay for the proper game. So, yeah.
So I really love naval game mode, especially naval RP. Like there is high intensity gunfights, and I also like you have close range brawls with destroyers, medium range gunfights with cruisers, and I also really love the long range gun duels with battleships. Like battleships is a more relaxed maybe modes, but you still have those intense moments where you have to pay attention and really have to like really have to pay attention just so you don't die, and you also need to know about your positioning to actually get proper results. Because if you're badly positioned, you can just easily get blown out of the water.
Top tier Britain is one of the most powerful nations in War Thunder as of update Wind of Change. Reason being that as of right now, Britain has just received one of the most powerful MBTs in the game, which has fixed two of the major flaws of the Challenger 2. Number one being no CITV, number two, lack of engine power, although if Gaijin would add the 1500 horsepower engine to it, that would be the only time where that actually comes into effect. But in the terms of top tier air, ever since we saw the addition of pulse Doppler radars and better semi-active radar homing missiles, they have been basically top of the game.
I like volumetric.
Ooh, okay.
I hate you so much.
The reason being is before you could pixel snipe someone and pen through like a little tiny pixel and it go through unrealistically, but now you actually have to aim at like general weak spots and make sure your shell can actually fit through and penetrate that weak spot. And I honestly prefer this over the occasional like shell being absorbed by the armor, which happens, but I think it's better than people pixel sniping against other tanks. Get away from me!
Dumb,
Like,
'cause
you
just
could
get
shoot,
both
like,
off the
shooting
radar,
between
and
the
then
third
you
turret
just-
ring
It's best.
is more
you
realistic
get
to
both
jamming
of
the
them,
turret
and
ring
it's just
and
the
just
absolute
bouncing
best.
off
Like,
for no
you
fucking,
actually
like,
get
you
a
cannot
better
jam the
feel
turret
of
ring.
the game
Oh,
based
so
on
you
the
really
fact
like
Come
that
on.
pixel sniping,
F4G,
huh? Don't
the
No,
F4G would
no,
give us the,
I knew it all.
the
Both shot
anti-radiation
1 point.
missiles, which would finally
Go,
fix the
go,
radar
go, Phil.
the radar anti-air.
Yeah,
and
Union
just
Helicopter
fall
to
from
the
10
ass.
kilometers away, and then all the radar would be gone.
Alright, question
Good luck.
numero 4. Gaijin should add more World War II vehicles. 3, 2, 1, go. Wait a minute, that's the wrong question. I
This
apologize.
is an old version of
That's eight? I was really confused. Like, what the hell you changed
Yeah, I
that?
was like, wait a minute, that's not the right
Like, wait a-
question.
If it's become more tedious over the years, is the question.
Alright, I apologize for that mix up, fellas. Okay, question
going
number
in the
4.